Hello and welcome to the AutoTalk Weekly Wrap, a show coming to you today fake live. So I guess we're probably live streaming this at about 10 o'clock on a Friday morning, but we're actually recording it at about 9:14 on a Thursday night. Graham, have we got a justifiable reason as to why we're not going out live and we're going out at 9:15 on a Thursday night?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask that actually, but well, since you did, yeah, because my son is a avid rail videographer of some YouTube notoriety, and apparently tomorrow morning, i.e., now, there's a very special train, an unusual consist running up from Westfield to Whangarei in the wee hours of the morning slash mid morning, and we are rain, hail, snow chasing it along various locations all the way from probably Waitakere up through Kumeu, Helensville, Kaukopakapa, Makarau up towards Whangarei, and then, yeah, probably come home for an early lunch. So that's where I'm going to be in the pouring rain, in the wind, holding an umbrella over my son while he records a train. Is that a good enough
Now, of course,
excuse?
people know I live in the lower parts of Northland. I mean, how close will it get to my humble abode?
Other side of the abode, unfortunately. We're going up the western side and you live on the eastern side. And if you know
Ah,
the North Auckland Railway line, it does like a double S on its rambling, wombling journey up to the speedy port of Marsden. And yeah, it does about a 200k journey to travel 100 k's. So yeah, we're in the wrong area of the country.
because there's a rail line in Welford, isn't there? But is that a different line or something? Is it or?
No, and it's the same one. And it's a good point because if you're talking about it
Yeah.
from a transport perspective, there's been so much made about the need to, reinvigorate the North Auckland line and, fast cargo from Marsden Point. What everyone forgets is it literally is, it's a great big double S that snakes from the eastern side right across to the western side, back across to the eastern side, back across to the western side through some really remote and difficult terrain. It's really hilly, lots of grades, lots of narrow, steep tunnels. It's difficult before it sort of pops its way out towards Kumeu Way. And it just means for an express line for lots and lots of large cargo carrying freight trains, it just doesn't work. And not unless they double track the whole thing and invest about another $45 billion into it. So all the talk about, we talk about complying cars, for example, in Northland and, having Northport being the receiving port for motor vehicles and then sticking them on trains and sending them down to Auckland. Well, it's not just Coles to Newcastle. It's worse than that. It's Coles to Newcastle on a duff boat. It just doesn't make any sense. How on earth these things would make their way down to Auckland, where they're all going to be complied anyway, or for that matter, put on the road. I've never worked out the logistics of it. It just doesn't make sense. But that's where we're going to be tomorrow morning, i.e., now.
Well, I'll say two things from that. You took a long way to get there, but you did get back round to the top or to the industry at hand, a bit like the rail line. Uh, and
It's a
secondly, when
relevant
you
point.
we just need to not shout when we're excited and passionate, Graham, because it peaks out the microphone that you're recording on tonight. But anyway,
At
so
least
so
I
this
have
is the,
passion, Richard.
so this is the morning fake live late night version
Yeah.
of AutoTalk Weekly Live, the AutoTalk Weekly Wrap. So I'll do a bit of ASMR at the mic. This is the late night session with Richard and Graham from AutoTalk Magazine. Uh,
We hear that low
gonna call,
lounge voices.
yeah, come on in, callers. Anyway, away from that silly stuff, I have been stuck at home this week with being the final person in New Zealand to get COVID. Finally happened. Finally
Hmm.
got it. It's not very nice, but I was multi-vaxxed, so I think I had a bit of a headache for 2 days, and now just a snotty nose. But I passed it on to my wife and my daughter, so they're not that happy with me about it because I was
Oh, you are on
traveling,
the shit list now. You really are.
travelled on my own to a industry function over in Australia and brought it back. So apologies to my wife Sally and my daughter, but hope I'm out of it. I'm actually out of isolation tomorrow, so maybe
Oh,
we'll see
okay.
you at a local train line, Graham. Go.
Just be a
Right,
super
let's get
spreader, Richard.
on. Yeah. No, the government says that after 7 days I'm allowed back out into the world. I shall be going back out into the world. Now, let's look at the news of the week, and we're going to start off with the fact that the January issue of AutoTalk is now out. Now, people they think, wow, that's a bit late. It is, but not really. We deliberately wanted to push out this month because we kind of ran the stats and realised no one's back from holiday until about the third week.
Mm.
Talking to people out there, it seems that still most of them aren't back. A lot of people seem to work the Christmas break this year and then have gone off on holiday now, which is interesting. Then there's a few people who've just headed off to NADA over in America, though not a very big number this year because it's in Texas and everyone really seems to want to go to the Las Vegas version, including
Yeah.
hopefully myself next year. Maybe we should both go, Graham. We could record live from NADA in Vegas. Not that
A lot more
anything
fun in
bad's
Vegas than
ever,
there is in Houston.
not that anything interesting's ever happened to me in Vegas.
Nope, nothing at all. I can
Um,
attest to that, Richard. Absolutely nothing.
yeah,
In bed by nine
yep.
o'clock last I heard.
Oh, exactly, exactly. Yep.
AM.
And it's yeah. So anyway, that magazine's out there now. Now, of course, tell us through that is we have a great interview with David Crawford, the retiring head of the Motor Industry Association. He has some interesting things to say about the used car lobby, Mr. McDonald. That
Yeah,
I'm
I,
sure you'd be
I
interested in reading.
I did read it, and I look actually full kudos to David too. I think he hit the nail on the head writing about his I suppose departure. But the big picture that's been left behind is that David brought a really neat aspect to the role where he had both the background, as he liked to say, when I was in the ministry, also when I was. A regulator was his favourite saying, but there was a lot of truth to it too. That he brought real live working knowledge as a former regulator, as someone who understood the industry both from without, from the I suppose the trade perspective, but the real politic of government, and that was a rarity I think in the industry that served the MIA really well. And full kudos, David, if you're watching this or you're seeing this at some stage or another. I think all the kudos coming your way for your tenure is well deserved. And whether we've had spats within the import industry versus new, I've always maintained, by the way, that there should be a whole lot more cohesion between the two. We all sell cars at the end of the day. There is that dynamic tension that exists, but I think David was a master at managing it and representing his constituents, I suppose, exceptionally well. And I know he'll be very sorely missed in that role.
Yeah, look, it's a great read. I mean, the whole magazine has got a whole pile of great stuff in there. So don't forget to jump onto autotalk.co.nz, download that. If you don't get a paper copy, if you don't get a paper copy and really want a paper copy, then email Deborah at automediagroup.co.nz and she'll arrange that for you. But yeah, no, the magazine is there and ready to go now. Now, of course, the big news of last week was that we have a new Prime Minister, and Chris
Mm.
Hipkins is that man. I would argue perhaps the slightly more conservative and maybe a little more business friendly face to the Labor Party. Not sure if you'd necessarily agree, Graham, but the automotive industry is waiting to see what incoming Prime Minister Chris Hipkins will do. Well, it's early days. Chris Hipkins will officially become the 41st Prime Minister on Wednesday, so that's happened now. This is early in the week.
Hmm.
VN Chief Executive Dave Vincent believes New Zealand will have a more pragmatic leader than Jacinda Ardern. Vincent says it's too early to see what will happen with the clean car scheme under Hipkins, but expects the new leader could take a razor whack to some less popular policies and issues in the lead up to the October 14 election. He thinks Hipkins is practical and likely to focus more on core issues such as the economy, cost of living, health and housing, crime and education, while perhaps changing or dropping things like the Three Waters Government Department amalgamations and some aspects around climate change. MIA Chief Executive David Crawford doesn't anticipate much change affecting the automotive industry if Michael Wood remains Transport Minister as expected under any Hipkins reshuffle. He says there may be some tinkering with emission standards, especially with the Clean Car Rebate Scheme running short on using fees to supplement rebates for zero and low emissions vehicles, which are selling well. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think he's going to go and chop any of the clean car stuff, but he may nudge Wood along in retooling the discount scheme a little bit to lower the pain. Well, are they going to raise the pain on utes and lower the benefit to EVs, or are they going to leave the utes alone and then lower the Enhancements, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, it's devil's advocate, really, isn't it? I mean, either way, whatever they do to the scheme, somewhere someone's going to be upset. Whether they're going to be, ute owners, or they're going to be EV owners, or they're going to be hybrid buyers, I don't know. But someone somewhere is going to feel the pain if they're going to meddle with it at all. I think you're right. I think the
Mm.
standard will stay exactly as it is. There's no political gain to be made about meddling with the standard right now. We'll see change. If there's going to be change, we'll see that post the election if there's a national enact government, is my belief. But I don't think we'll see much intervention around the vehicle sector in general, because what we're going to look at over there's only 35 sitting days of Parliament, do you realise? We'll see it focused, I think, on optics, things that resonate with the general public and talkback radio without doing any critical harm, as it were, to Labor policy of the past or ideals, or for that matter, issues that they have to deal with other, shall we say, other caucuses or other members within the coalition or lack of coalition they currently have. So I don't see much change in the vehicle sector that will affect us.
Yeah, yeah. Let's be clear. Probably the biggest thing that seems to be likely to face a bit of impact is Three Waters, isn't it? I mean, he's gonna not necessarily make it disappear, but perhaps kick it out
Ooh.
past the next election.
We are 3 readings deep in that thing, Richard. I don't know, and I think there's much
Uh,
pressure from within the caucus. I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't know. If I had to be a gambling man and put my money on one side of the table or the other, I'd say they're going to just forge on through with Three Waters, as it's kind of too late to turn it around. But they're going to focus on, as somebody on radio put it today, I heard, making sure that the rust stays on the Labor voter.
right, right. Okay. Well, anyway, we'll carry on from there. Tacking on to that, bit of a comment from the MTA in another story. The MTA says the government must prioritise automotive sector before the general election. Um, their new advocacy and stakeholder manager, Brian Anderson, says the industry is the lifeblood of local communities and literally keeps the country moving. A number of issues affecting our industry that can't wait until a new government is sworn in at the end of the year. Um, Not entirely sure what they're expecting. They want more immigration jobs on the green list. That was already kind of happening. I feel we kind of already moved through that a little bit. Um, yeah, it's they. I think they're talking very specifically about their apprenticeship stuff, and yeah, we'll
Well,
see. We will see.
yeah, there's a point to this though, is that yes, right now we're dealing with a full pot, and so with the exception of the odd person that actually makes the migration to New Zealand, any job, any profession right now is simply poaching them from somewhere else, and so there's like little sort of cycle going on with warrant of fitness inspectors, for example, that then become compliance inspectors, that then get poached to become warrant of fitness inspectors, and on it goes. We're not actually introducing a lot of new people to the sector. And if you talk about apprenticeships, for example, which I think that was a very, very good and worthy scheme, and hopefully it's had the desired effect to bring more apprentices back on board. But what the industry really needs actually is on the ground technicians. If you're in the compliance sector, for example, you know how impossible it is to get staff. If you're a warrant of fitness testing station, if you're a workshop looking for qualified mechanics, let alone guys that can still just turn the tools, they're just not out there. And so the Great Reset, as far as immigration is concerned, I'm not sure what policy you could put in place that isn't already there. The issue is not that the immigration machinery isn't in place to help attract them, is if they actually want to come to New Zealand right now. Like, immigration reset or not, is there actually the incentivization right here, right now, with New Zealand and what is perceived to be the economic situation it may be facing, is it attractive enough for immigrants to make their way right now? Or are we in a bit of a vacuum where at the moment there just isn't the appetite to be here that there used to be 3 or 4 years ago when the sun was shining?
And I guess we go back there to the position around the saying around cost of living and so on and so forth. That's what needs to be fixed as well before you
Yeah.
go too far. So, but the cost of living thing, I don't think really is a a lot of it's being labelled as being a short term issue. Suddenly cost of living has gone up, and we're seeing people compare the cost of living here with overseas. The cost of living at the moment hasn't really gone up any faster or higher than anywhere else in the world. We just already had a really ridiculously high cost of living. Anyone who's
Mm.
lived overseas in the last decade knows that. It's not a current government issue. It's a cost of living at the moment is a worldwide issue. that
Yeah.
New Zealand was already kind of screwed on, and it's just become. If you're going, things are going up in percentages. If you're already got a high base to work from, well, it compounds. So yeah, we will see what they can do. Right, let's move on to the next story and kind of into the businessy side of things. Uh, MTF has purchased a vehicle brokerage, sorry, a finance brokerage that I believe technically will no longer be a brokerage. MTF
Well,
Finance
no.
says it's strengthened its yeah, it says it has strengthened its consumer offering by purchasing online brokerage Lending People, founded in 2012. Lending People says technology-driven specialist market, making it seamless for consumers to borrow online. MTF Finance says the acquisition is part of a strategic digital transformation to provide customers with the ultimate lending experience across all channels. The acquisition is part of the long-term strategy of MTF Finance to broaden its reach into new channels and markets while supporting and growing existing channels, MTF board chair Mark Darrow says. Letting People operates digitally and is a key addition to enhancing MTF's finance portfolio, as well as its technology and performance marketing platform will grow the core MTF finance business also. So this is another big move for MTF. Last week we saw they took on a new kind of commercial head in there. So yeah, this is another interesting acquisition. Someone pointed out to me today that what it means is they've bought a brokerage, so a company that takes applications online and then puts them out to, or lends them out via multiple companies, and bought it in house, so it no longer becomes a becomes a brokerage. It's really just another technology for an MTF, but that's good and good to see that a finance company that remains largely controlled by dealers, well not controlled, but owned by dealers or for the benefit of dealers, is continuing to grow and doing new things.
Yeah, I think the story of 2023 will be there's not a lot of new business to find out there, but there's business to buy, if that makes sense. So from a finance sector, we might see a bit more of this, where there's consolidation in the sector, perhaps, as some of the bigger players or more financed players are looking to expand by way of acquisition rather than by new business. But I had to note there as a little side segue there, unfortunate juxtaposition of advertisements within that page you brought up live. There's a piece from one of your advertisers saying, "Don't lose out business by going to a broker." It rolls
Where's
on
that?
through there. Go back up again. Yeah, yeah, that one. Oh, you missed it. Too far, too far. You scroll your mouse like my wife. Too fast, I can't read it. There we are. Don't lose out by going to a broker. We did it. We bought it.
I'm trying to see that. I'm trying to see where the ad is.
You are just go up the screen. It's community finance services. Go up one. Go up a little bit.
Oh, hang
Keep
on.
scrolling on through. No, other way. Other way. Sorry, other way. That's it.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Oh.
Yeah, yeah. Here we are. And don't lose out by going to a broker. We didn't.
Oh. Look,
I
and
think
we've got
it's quite pointed, actually.
companies on the page too that are ultimately brokers. I think it's great that so many different options in the market see fit to talk to the market through AutoTalk, even though there's competitive tension there in the page. I think that's fantastic. I think that's
Well,
fantastic.
actually, I
So,
do too. Actually, I think all jokes aside, it's really good. It just shows how our as much variety we have in our marketplace and choice. And if you're dealers, for example, motor vehicle trader, looking at all your different options, you do still have a really good basket of options to choose from. And I think that page you were showing a second ago demonstrates that whatever you need, whatever you want, there's actually a product in the basket there somewhere. It's really good. It's healthy.
yeah, exactly. Right, so let's go on to the next story. Another kind of financial services one, because it's all important, because it's what pays a lot of the bills in the motoring industry.
Yeah.
Protector Insurance appoints new head of automotive for New Zealand. This comes after they were recently purchased, of course. Insurance New Zealand Limited has, with immediate effect, appointed Bart Taylor as its new head of automotive for the country. Taylor joined Protector in July 2019 as Chief Customer Officer and has previously worked in senior management roles for the Allianz and AIG Group insurance companies. He began his working career in the banking industry in 1989. Taylor will lead the business to develop priorities, goals, and strategy that will strengthen the Assurant brand across multiple channels and networks and deliver an enhanced product offering for customers. Yeah, so Assurant recently bought the company. They're out of, I believe, Singapore. So yeah, another good hire there. Bart's been around a while. He's well known and well liked, and brings plenty of experience to the role. So a good appointment there.
Good
Now, a bit of a
story. Promoting
follow.
from within. It's a good story.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. On to another appointment that kind of touched on a story we discussed last week, or in the last couple of weeks. Keith Andrews appointed a new after-sales and network operations general manager. Commercial vehicle dealership Keith Andrews is strengthening its North Island network with the appointment of Brad Phillips as general manager of after-sales and network operations. It follows rapid expansion and a surge in customer demand for the dealership. Managing Director Aaron Smith says the appointment of Phillips will help the dealership remain committed to the highest level of service and support as it partners with transport operators to keep New Zealand moving. We're excited to have Brad joining Keith Andrews. This is a critical executive appointment that will help Keith Andrews build on our growth through 2023 and beyond. He comes from Genesis Energy, interestingly, where he was a part of the role of Fuso E-Canters, and prior to that, he was a heavy diesel mechanic. Now, digging through here to see if he was ever a groomer, because usually it's groomers who end up in management positions. He spent 6 months as a mechanic at Scott Base. So another strong appointment, and it goes back to what we were saying a couple of weeks ago. Let's say dealership, Keith Andrews is beyond a dealership, it's a distributor as well. It's Keith Andrews, I feel, are poising themselves for a lot of growth. They've got some strong truck brands, and they've started to sniff around the car market. So I don't know. Watch this space. I kind of feel like if any franchises pop up for sale around the place, either in the heavy or the light sector, they might be having a wee look see. I don't know. I just have a feeling about that one. I may be wrong, but just have a feeling.
Sniff of the checkbook, Richard. Sniff of the checkbook.
That is a growing company with entirely locally owned, strong management. They invest in good people. So, yeah, yep, yes, right. Now, on to one or second to last story. And again, I've said this before, I love this kind of story. I just love companies investing in professional development. Tuna's 2022 class graduates with flying colours. Tuna's Auto Retail says over the past few days has been building a few years of building a strong internal training program to support its people to learn and grow. In the last months of 2022, Tuna's Auto Retail ran a pilot program with external courses in business fundamentals and leadership. More than 30 team members at different levels from the national network participated in the 2 courses over 14 weeks, representing a huge commitment from Turners and the individuals involved. I have been very impressed with what I've seen from the program, particularly how well our team did, the commitment they showed throughout, and the learnings they shared with us around what they gained from it, both professionally and personally. Turners Auto Retail Chief Executive Greg Hedgepeth says. Yeah. Now, I hear there's no truth in the rumor that the course was basically these people being shoved into a room and Tina from Turner standing at the front of the room and repeating for hours on end, I like cars, I like cars, I like cars.
Oh. Whatever it takes, right?
Come on. You love that campaign, Graham. I know you do.
Don't digest, Richard. I just say that for right to you. Don't digest. I love that campaign.
Man,
just to point to this, I think. Carry on.
I wonder if we could set like a celebrity boxing match for charity between Tina from Turners and the Easy 123 Kiwi.
Or Ketis, perhaps. We could put him in the ring too.
He just swear too much.
Well, I mean, if he would actually never just sit back there and not know quite how to take it, but he'd insult them into the corner. I was going to say, but the Turners program, all jokes aside, I think what Turners have done is a very smart thing. So they're obviously well aware of the labour shortage out there, and just the sort of the bed hopping, so to speak, around the various dealerships and industries. They've taken the approach to actually to educate, to teach, to learn, to actually help their team grow, and in the process, hopefully retaining that talent pool rather than just constantly having to start with new people coming to the front door as fast as they exit out the back. And I think Kiwi businesses have been a bit lacking for a number of years now in the mentality that just shove them in the front, see how they go, and if it doesn't quite work out, pop them out the back and find another one, because there's always just a conveyor belt of people coming on through. Well, the last couple of years, I think, has forced a lot of Kiwi operations to rethink that strategy. And I don't think Turners are one of them. I think Turners probably had that well in hand quite some time beforehand. It's good to see it in practice, and it clearly works. And it's probably a good lesson or two for a few other players out there about staff retention. And it's not always about the checkbook either.
No, and the other aspect to that is that it's a lot of the corporates that are doing this, and there's no reason why it has to be only the corporates that are doing this. Um, they just talk to your F&I company for a start. Your F&I company and your major suppliers, a lot of them will have programs in place that they can bring in and assist you with in regards to training. I know it's quite not quite what it used to be in the past, but they are generally very willing to invest money in your team. Now, sure, there's a
Mm,
payoff for them,
mm,
and
mm.
usually a little bit of that will be how to sell their product better. But it's amazing how much of that rubs off, and amazing how much of a difference that can make getting
Yes.
someone in to work with your staff.
Yep. And I think the smaller business, the smaller dealerships are probably at a bit of a disadvantage there because there aren't the roles to expand into. If you look at the likes of, we talked for a second about Keith Andrews, for example, or Southpack or Turners or any of these bigger groups, where there's actually a lot of room for expansion, whether you want to move around the country or you want to move around an organization, there are vacancies to fill. In a smaller business, you are a bit restricted by just how many positions you can actually put somebody into. And it does place the smaller business at a bit of a disadvantage there. And so the question then becomes, what can you offer in terms of personal growth and training that isn't necessarily always just related around a financial compensation? There must be more to it.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. Right, and now our last story really has nothing to do with the industry, but I just put in there to piss you off, Graham, and that is
What could possibly be?
General Motors is celebrating the Corvette's 40th birthday with an electrified all-wheel drive Corvette.
Well, why would that? Given that I appreciate motor vehicles, but let's look at it. Let's look at it first of all. If it looks like an SUV or a minivan, I'm not going to be so happy. But
Well, it looks like a Corvette.
oh, it looks like a Corvette. So what's the problem? It looks like
Yeah.
a Corvette, all right?
Well, you've always been a bit funny about them electrifying, American legends like the Mustang.
Well, only because
Um,
the
it's,
Mustang E Mustang thing is basically a Toyota Highlander with knobs on. Um,
the Chevrolet
it's not a
Corvette made its
Mustang,
debut in
but
New. The
that's a
Chevrolet
Corvette.
Corvette it made its debut in New York City more than 70 years ago, and to mark the occasion, General Motors is introducing the 2024 E-Ray. It's the first Corvette model yet to feature a powertrain encompassing a 6.2 litre V8 hybrid engine and all-wheel drive. General Motors says the 2024 Corvette E-Ray is also the only sports car pairing two separate propulsion systems to provide naturally aspirated V8 power with electrified responsiveness powered by E all-wheel drive, which ironically is a system shared by the Toyota Highlander hybrid.
So
um,
basically, it's a Nissan Note E-Power with a little bit more horsepower.
it's a Nissan Note e-Power in the front with a Corvette in the back,
Well, see, look, I'm
or
intrigued because that's a good
or
combination. That's a,
or it's or
or
it's a, or it's a Toyota Highlander E4 or a Toyota Estima E4 backwards.
well, yeah, the Estima is actually probably more the right example for the Mark E because that really is a bit of an Estima at the end of the day, isn't it? Um, Again, but that Corvette, so it looks like a Corvette, so it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, talks like a duck. It may not necessarily always sound like a duck, but it's not actually an EV anyway, is it, Richard?
No.
It's actually a hybrid.
Well, here's some numbers for this. GM says the E-Ray is the quickest production Corvette in history, clocking a
Mhm.
2.5 second 0 to 60 mile per hour time. I don't know what that is in New Zealand money. Before breezing through the quarter
It's great.
mile in 10.5 seconds. The 6.2 litre V8 doesn't displace. Whoever wrote this, I'll slap you.
Well, I was going to say,
Produces,
the Dodge boys right now are going, oh, 10.5 seconds. That's nice.
yeah,
What did the Demon do? Was it
300.
like a 9.7 second quarter mile for the Demon?
Yeah, yeah, but the Hellcat stuff is basically getting a bit of a cred in America now for being driven by people you don't want to hang out with. The 6.2 V8 displaces
Sold like
369 kilowatts of
hotcakes, excuse
power
me.
and 639 newton meters of torque to the rear axle. It is complemented by an electric motor that channels an additional 119 kilowatts of power and 170 newton meters of torque through the front wheels via a 1.9 kilowatt hour battery pack. So that's pretty much a Nissan Note in the front, maybe slightly more power than a Nissan E-Power Note in the front,
Yeah.
and then a
Yep.
V8 in the back. So that's pretty cool.
That's cool.
The 1.9 kilowatt, yeah. In total, it produces 488 kilowatts. That's pretty cool. It's pretty
That's not
cool.
bad.
Yeah.
That's not bad. These days, that's sort of moderate benchmark for performance, isn't it?
Yep. Goes on sale this year. 101, 104,200 oh, God knows what this thing's figure
Is
on
that
now.
American pesos?
Anyway, oh, yeah, I don't think that's the right price. I gotta go and beat up
No,
some journalists, I tell you.
100,
But anyway, it is.
104,000 US. That'll get you the vinyl seats and the
Yeah,
E-note ETC lady talking to you.
yes, exactly, exactly. So yeah, we'll go and I'll find out why they've got add an extra figure there. But 105,000 US dollars. I'd say expect about $250,000 by the time it makes it to New Zealand.
Yep.
Um, I'd argue that's still good value compared to a Ferrari or a McLaren, which are probably an extra couple of hundred on top. And I've driven the current Corvette, and I think it's a bit of fun. It's enough fun to justify saving a couple hundred grand.
Tell us you've driven the new Corvette, Richard, without telling us you've driven the new Corvette, right?
No, I just told you I've driven the new Corvette. I've,
Rub it
I've
in, why
very
don't we?
I've very briefly driven the new Corvette because the first time I drove the new Corvette, it got a puncture on the way home, and I had to send it back. Well, I didn't send it back. I dropped it off to a staff member because it was a weekend and he was closer to the base and he was able to get it repaired. And then the
Yeah.
next time I went to have a Corvette, I got sick. So, yeah.
The
But
legend,
still,
legend is not for you. But look, I'm going to say that's a good-looking car. It's not an EV; it's a hybrid. And if it was an EV and it looked like that, I'd be keen as mustard on it. There's some spectacularly good-looking EV sports cars out there. So don't hang me on the whole. You don't like it because it's an EV sports car thing. I won't have it. You're being mean.
oh, exactly, exactly. Speaking of American sports cars, how's your hunt for a Mustang going?
Oh, my hunt for a Mustang would go better if I didn't have a Ranger anymore, but I appear to still own a Ranger. So until I don't own a Ranger anymore, my hunt for the American sports car dream, given that I'm a midlife crisis specimen in waiting, is not going anywhere. I've seen several that I like, but no, the Ranger has to go first.
So anyone out there willing to take a fairly tidy Platinum Edition Ranger on part exchange for a V8 Mustang, very specifically a V8 Mustang, not an EcoBoost, a V8 Mustang,
I'm not a real
then
estate agent.
yes, yes, exactly. Then get in touch with Graham. He's not hard to find out there,
Yeah, I
and
think you
I'm
probably
sure
find
he
me
will
out there.
be.
Can I
He'll be
just make
sitting there with a cheek in
a
hand.
little point here without naming any names or bits and pieces either? But I'm going to say I have been doing a little bit of shopping out there in the marketplace. I'm going to say, I may only be a grubby old used car dealer, but some of the new vehicle franchise dealers out there would do well to brush up on their customer experience when a 55-year-old man driving a Ranger wanders in looking at Mustangs and appears to be dismissed. Maybe if I was 19 with pimples and tattoos, they might look at me a little bit better than that. But I just have had some interesting experiences in the last week that I suspect that the dealerships involved could do with some brushing up.
I think you should name names. To be honest, name names.
No, it's not fair to do so. I mean, look, this is trade and all that sort of thing too. But I had a reasonably unsatisfactory experience, and I actually capped that off, Richard, because I sent away an email to the said dealership that I'm talking about in question, and I got an automated response back, and I've yet to hear from anybody real and live. So
Wow,
yeah,
wow.
so okay, they're probably not going to get my
Mm.
business.
And I guess we could narrow this down to four dealers within the broader Auckland region.
Well, yeah, maybe, could be, possibly. Hmm. I
Right.
didn't wear a false Groucho mask, moustache and a cap and bits and pieces to try and disguise myself. I figure that nobody really knows who I am anyway. But look, anyway, I was going to say, it's sometimes, for all that we hear about the might of the new vehicle industry in New Zealand, there's some operations out that I think could do with a bloody good stiff broom. And if I was in charge of the revolution, they'll all be up against the wall. New broom.
So the message here is if anyone from the vast selection of Ford dealers within the broader Auckland region is listening to this, jump onto your computer system, look through your email funnel, and see if you've got an email from Graham McDonald saying, "I want to buy your Mustang. Why will no one talk to me?"
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yep. Hello. Hi. Here I am. Hello. All right.
Guys, we're in the middle. We're in the start of a downturn. You've got to take this business when it comes. You've got to take this business when it comes.
Yeah, you do. You do. Um, we're investing so much money in our people. And I'm just thinking about what we do at Croydon's. We really do. We treat every single lead, every single person that contacts us, looks at something, itemizes it on Trade Me, puts it on their watch list. Everything, everybody is both a potential lead and the potential for you to make contact with and have a conversation with. And the best thing you can do is sometimes have a conversation that goes nowhere, because at least you've made an attempt and they know you've tried and you've been polite, and they might remember you next time. It's not hard. It really isn't that hard. Why do we still get it wrong out there in the industry? Anyway, there's my rant for the night. Wouldn't be a show without a Graham rant somewhere.
Well, if we can circle back around to the story with it, Turner's obviously they've been putting a lot of training into their staff over a while. They've got very good systems.
Yep.
A couple of years ago, I went and looked at a vehicle at Turner's, and I got a lot of really good positive follow-up calls from them, including one like a year later saying, "Did you buy something?" And how's it going? And are you still? It was smart moves. And I bought my next car at Turner's amusingly. Anyway, right. On with this. That's it for the show, I guess. Graham, enjoy your train spotting tomorrow, if that's what we're supposed to call it.
Oh, I'm just vehicle wrangler, logistics manager. And I'll be holding the umbrella. It's my job. I'm the water boy.
You'll be driving the Ranger, yeah, instead of your Mustang. It'd be so much more fun if you had the Mustang.
Wouldn't it
Anyway.
just? Yeah. Or
are you driving some creative used import this week that you?
No, it's back to the Progress again, because the Ranger is for sale. I'm not going to drive it while it's for sale. I think dealers always make this fatal mistake of drive vehicles off the yard, and they always wonder why when they get grubby and they leave their McDonald's bag in the back and they've got a bit of dirt from the night before, it looks grubby on the yard. Like, is it for sale or is it not for sale? So I have a little rule: if it's for sale, don't drive it. So I'm driving the mighty Progress tomorrow.
Excellent. Right, well, I will enjoy my first day of isolation tomorrow. You enjoy that, and we'll catch everyone next week for the AutoTalk Weekly Wrap.
Happy week.